Understanding SEC filings. So in this video, we are going to cover what is the SEC, SEC filings breakdown, and the types of SEC filings. So first and foremost, what is the SEC? So SEC stands for the Securities and Exchange Commission. They are an independent federal government agency that is responsible for protecting investors, and they make sure and maintain fair and orderly functioning of the securities market. So they basically make sure everything in the stock market is operating at an orderly fashion way. They are basically the cops of the stock market. They make sure that every publicly listed company, meaning any company that is trading on the stock exchange, is following the proper guidelines, right? Now, knowing what the SEC represents and what they do and who they are, now the next thing is, what are SEC filings? So SEC filings are required by the SEC. They're required by the cops of the stock market. So their SEC filings are documents required from publicly traded companies to comply with the Securities and Exchange Commission's regulations. So these are requirements by the SEC that you have to submit these certain documents, right? I'll get into what documents, but these documents have to be submitted by a publicly traded company. Once again, a publicly traded company could be like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, any company that you and I can go out on the stock market and go and trade. That's a publicly traded company. This does not apply to any private company. Next, SEC filings allows you to have a clear view of the company's history and progress in order to make informed choices. Now, obviously, depending on what they're filing, what report they're submitting, we can get a lot of information from that report. Now, the SEC is in charge of checking the information contained within these filings in order to ensure they meet certain requirements. So the SEC lays out requirements. They say that you have to meet these certain requirements. These are the reports that you, as a company, you have to submit, and then the SEC ensures that those reports follow a certain guideline. Now, obviously, if a company lies on a report and they get caught, they're going to get fined by the SEC, or they're going to basically get in a lot of trouble. So the whole idea of SEC is, once again, they're the cops of the stock market. They require certain filings from these major companies to actually file, so we investors are safe and we can have as much information as possible, right? So now let's jump into the types of SEC filings. Now there's different types of SEC filings. You probably heard some of the terms, you probably haven't, but let's dive into it and understand it at a deeper level. So the first one is something called a 10K. So the 10K is the annual report. This represents the annual financial report filed by the companies at the end of their fourth quarter period, or within 90 days of the end of their fiscal year. Fiscal year meaning whenever they close out the year. Usually a lot of companies are closing it out till the end of the year, but a lot of other companies have different time frames. So basically, when a company reports the full 1 year earnings from day one till the end of the full year, they're required to file a 10K. What we see is we see a company having earnings, but whenever a company reports earnings, they are required to complete this 10K form and submit all the required documents that are on the 10K. They're required to fill in all of the blanks on the 10K. The 10K form is required, and it shows us everything we basically need to know about the company. I'll dive into the 10K and I'll show you what it is in a bit. Next, we have something called a 10Q report. A 10Q report stands for the quarterly report. This represents the quarterly financial report filed by companies that must be filed within 45 days after the end of each quarter. So after each quarter, there's 4 quarters a year, 1 quarter, 2nd quarter, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter. After each quarter ends, when a company's quarter ends, they have 45 days to file the 10Q. So basically, they have 45 days to file or showcase their earnings. Now, there are certain times a company needs more time. They file an extension, which is totally okay. But typically, they have 45 days to report their earnings after each quarter. So quarter 1 ends, they file a 10Q, they file a 10Q, they file a 10Q, and then obviously here, they can just file the 10K, right? So these are technically, once again, earning reports in a way, reported by these companies, submitted to the SEC based on their requirements. Now the next we have something called an 8K. So an 8K is a report of any other important event, right? This represents important events not included in the 10K or 10Q reports. This document is unscheduled and typically issued when a major company event is relevant to investors. So if a company makes a big announcement, right, like hey, we're filing bankruptcy, or hey, we're getting into this partnership, whatever, any big set of news, it will be filed on the 8K. You can see a report called 8K, and when you go through that report, you can see what the set of news is. So whenever you guys see major news from a company, right, typically this is filed and then the news comes out. Whenever you see a company reporting yearly earnings, this gets filed and then the numbers come out. This gets filed for quarterly and then the numbers come out. So these have to be filed first, submitted, and then earnings come out usually seconds later. And these reports are all available to us. I'll show you guys where you can access it and where you can find it in a bit. Now, some other types of SEC filings are something called a Form 4. This is the purchase or sale of stock by insiders. So if a company insider is purchasing or selling a stock, he or she needs to file something called Form 4. Basically, they need to let investors know that an insider is buying or selling shares. Another form is called the SC13G. This is the purchase or sale of shares by large holders owning more than 5% of the company's share. If someone ends up owning more than 5% of the company's share, they have to file this report. So if this is seen maybe by a big institution, big hedge fund, or a billionaire looking to purchase a large amount of a company, they will be filing this report if they end up owning 5% or more of a company's share. Next, we have a SC13D. This is the purchase or sale of shares by an activist investor. If an activist investor purchases shares, he or she needs to file this. They don't need to typically own 5%, but if they are an activist investor, they need to file the SC13D. Next, we have this form called Def 14A. This is a definitive proxy statement. This is a filing that provides investors with management salaries. So whenever, depending on whatever the executive's management they get paid, it's showcased on this report saying, hey, this executive or this manager is getting paid $2 million. This one is getting $4 million. This executive is getting $6 million. So we can see this on these type of SEC filings. And obviously there's many other SEC filings that can be found on the Edgar website. I'll show you guys where the website is. These are just some of the filings, and there's obviously a lot more. The filings that I went over are kind of the main ones, right? And there's a lot of other filings that you guys can find on this website. And let me show you what the website is. So this right here is the website. So if you guys want to find the SEC filings, you guys go on this link right here. If you click on this link, right, or go on this link, sec.gov/Edgar, right, you're going to get this form. Once you get this form, there's filings and forms right here. So you search for company filings. When you search for company filings, right, and you click on that, it's going to take you to the next page, which is this page right here. When you go on this page, it's going to take you to the Edgar search tools. Now, when you go to this page, it's going to give you company or fund name right here. So you can click right here, and you can search by the company or fund name, or the ticker symbol, or whatever. Now, when you click that, you're going to get a section to plug in the company name. Once you get the company name, let's say I search up Roku. If I search up Roku right here, I write Roku, I hit search. This is what's going to pop up. I click Roku, and you guys can see what I have showcasing. This is something that's showcasing. It's showing me everything for stock Roku. You can see they have an 8K filed on October 23rd, 2019. I can click on that. It'll show me that. SC13G is filed right here. You can see on October 10th. 10Q is followed right here. Another 8K, another 8K. Obviously, every 8K represents any big news, so you guys can check that out. Now, obviously, you don't have to go on this website to see every single thing, or you don't have to go see all reports. If a company announces a major report, obviously once the filing gets done, the company at the same time releases a press release, right? So at the same time, let's say this 8K represented some set of news. Once this gets filed, it hits the market as a press release. So you don't really have to go here to see what the company's doing. It's going to be in the press release anyways, right? Now let's break down the 10K. Let's break down the 10K. Let's understand it a little bit and let's take it from there. So the 10K, once again, represents the annual financial report filed by companies at the end of their fourth quarter period or within 90 days of the end of their fiscal year. Now, the reason I'm breaking the 10K down is because I want you guys to have a solid understanding, and I'll break down when you need it, when you don't need it, but just understanding what it showcases and how detailed it is very important for you to kind of understand that. Next, the 10K covers all aspects of the business for the finished fiscal year and contains crucial information for investors. It showcases all the following information and obviously more. Description of the business, how it operates, including strategy, services, products, marketing, recent events, and so on. So it basically shows you how the business is operating. It's going to show you what the strategy is, what services they offer, what products they have, their marketing plan, and so many other stuff. Obviously, when it goes into like marketing plan and certain strategy, I don't expect the company to fully elaborate on that, right? Because obviously the market competition can kind of steal that, but they kind of give you a full overview of what they do, who they are, what their approach to the overall market is. Next, they also have to define the risk factors that the company faces and how they plan on countering these risks. So the risk factors have to be elaborated. So if you look at any 10K, you're going to see that a company elaborates on risk. And it's not because they're trying to scare you away, but they're required by the SEC to elaborate on any risk that they see. Next, legal proceedings focuses on pending lawsuits, legal proceedings, or other types of litigation. So if a company is facing any lawsuits that's pending, completed, or anything, they are required to update us, especially on the 10K. What is happening? What is happening with this overall lawsuit? Did you get a lawsuit? Did you not get a lawsuit? So that's all reported on the 10K. Next, the number of shareholders, stock repurchases by the business, dividends, and similar information are all also posted on the 10K. Financial statements such as balance sheets, shareholder equity, cash flow statements, income statements, all also posted on the 10K. Controls and procedures to handle internal financing reporting, and any other information that is basically required to be posted. Next, the 10K also shows us the experience of all directors and the compensation for all executives. So it breaks down almost everything that we basically need to know about a company, about what they do, how they operate, how much money they have, what they expect to make, all the risks, how much money or what the experience of the people working for the company make, what the experience is. They kind of break all that down for us on the 10K. It's a very detailed report, and it's monitored by the SEC. So once again, the company knows that if they kind of lie on the report, they can get in a lot of trouble. So this is a very, very important report, right? So it kind of looks something like this. So you can see this is the table of contents, breaking everything down of the company, unresolved staff comments, risk factors, properties, legal proceedings, other information, controls, and procedures. So you have this full booklet, which is over 112 pages. So it's very, very big, okay? Now, if you look here, this is part of the 10K. I'm not going to break down each and every single component. You can see our primary advertising product includes, and this is about stock Roku. So their primary advertising product is video ads, brand sponsorships, audience marketplace. So if you look at this, they're really, really going in depth with what they do, how they make money, and kind of focus on everything that they need to express to us investors. Now, the question everybody probably has by now, looking at this, looking at 119 pages, like, oh my God, 119 pages, wow, going through this must be insane. So the question it comes down to is, do I really need to go through the SEC filings? Now, the proper answer for traders is no. I don't. Like me personally, I went through some just for education purposes, to be honest. But I don't really think you as a trader, depending on what type of trader you are, which I'm going to explain in a bit, you don't really need to go through these filings. Now, the reason I explain these is I want you to know what they are. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the course, knowing, like hearing a term like, oh my God, this company just filed the 8K. Oh my God, this company is reporting this or reporting that. Just understanding where this information is accessible, understanding what the SEC is, understanding that these filings are required, understanding that in these filings we have a lot of in-depth information, just allows you to see the overall market. So now if you're someone that's day trading, you're not heavily going into a company, you're not looking to invest long term, you don't have to go through a 10K. You don't have to go through each and every single component and break things down. Now, if you're someone that's investing, right, yes, the 10K at that point is very important for you. But if you're someone that's trading, you're day trading, you're scalping, looking at the 10K quite honestly is not really going to improve your trading. Your focus should be price action. But understanding this is very, very important. Knowing about the 10K, knowing about the 8K, knowing about all these different SEC filings are very, very important, which is why I elaborate on this. And just a cool thing for you guys to do would be to go on the website, just play around with this, see different filings, and just get an understanding. So when it does get presented, when it does, whenever you do see it somewhere, you're able to say, oh, I know what that is, and I have a strong and solid understanding about it. And that was the whole point of me kind of breaking this down, because like I mentioned before, I want you guys to understand the whole marketplace and how it operates, what are the key pieces, so you can actually trade better and look at it from a better point of view.